PharmaPhobic is powered by Achieve the Lifestyle, a company dedicated to helping you empower your health, redefine your lifestyle, and all for the health of it. You're listening to PharmaPhobic, where we challenge the state of health in America. I'm Janie, a physician assistant, and I've seen how healthcare keeps people dependent instead of truly healthy.
And I'm Dan, a veteran turned fitness pro here to uncover the truth and explore simple and sustainable health solutions. From big pharma to big food, we're exposing the conflicts of interest keeping us sick and finding better ways to take back our health.
No fluff, no gimmicks, just real talk, real solutions, and a little bit of fun along the way.
Hello there, guys.
Hi.
Welcome to another episode of PharmaPhobic, powered by Achieve the Lifestyle, where we help you become the strongest, healthiest, and most capable version of yourself. I'm here with my lovely wife, Janie.
Hello. And you're Dan.
And everybody knows who I am.
I know, but you introduced me, so you have to introduce you.
I'm Dan, and everybody knows who I am, and that's bars. Okay, awkward intros out of the way. Before we get the business here and get to talking about some health-related topics, I have to bring up an issue, and I have a question for the audience. And, you guys can answer, DM us, email us, whatever, and answer this honestly. And I'm talking to the gentleman out there, okay? Does anybody else have this issue? Because this morning I noticed something, and it's a trending issue with my lovely wife here. So, gentlemen, if you're out there in the ether and you've been married or you have a significant other that you've shared time with for a significant amount of time, do you have this problem?
Is it significant?
It's significant of your significant other that this significant issue gets significantly addressed.
Okay.
Okay, so
I just feel like my defensiveness rising. I'm ready for it.
I have this order to my stuff. Any given day you catch me, I'm wearing a black t-shirt, okay?
Oh.
And I'm wearing some cool shorts. It's my business attire, it's my suit and tie, and it's what I wear for leisure. I work in a gym. What can I say? I love it. Shorts and black t-shirts every day of my life. Anyway, I have a system in my drawer, right, of business shorts where whatever's on top, those are my choices, okay? There's a system to how I live. I pull out what I'm going to wear for today. Boom. It's black camo shorts and a black t-shirt. Feeling good, looking crisp. I love it. But before I put my stuff on and I'm running around before I leave the house, my wife shows up and she's already dressed and she's got black camo tights and a black shirt. I swear, guys, she just looks at what I'm going to wear and then she picks her outfit. She says she doesn't, but it happens too many times. Uh-huh. This happens all the time. Okay. It happens on Sundays. It happens on Saturdays. So I want to know if the gentlemen out there have an issue where your wife just wants to be your teammate all the time and she wears what you wear. Okay. What do you have to say for yourself, Janie?
That you think very highly of yourself, that I look at what you wear and be like, oh God, I want to dress like him. Or the fact that we've lived together for 7 years and maybe we just develop similar patterns.
You just want to team spirit this thing. And I'm with it. Team spirit. Okay. But now why
are you talking about it?
But now we're both wearing black camo.
So the man who's making a fuss about me wearing black camo is also the same man who gets upset because we have matching coffee mugs. Like his says D, mine says J for obvious reasons. And if I don't drink out of my J cup in the morning, I'm out of uniform. But yet if I wear similar pants to him, it's an issue.
That's different because that's our own morale building thing at home. We have the D and J cups, boom, having coffee together in the morning. But when we're dressing the same, going out the door, people are going to think we're doing this stuff on purpose.
I like how you put on a front, but I know deep down you love it.
It is kind of funny that we're that synced where it's like we end up wearing similar stuff and it's not even, well, you claim it's not on purpose. I'm watching you.
I have a theory that I want to do GI maps on us because every time one of us farts, the other one returns the fart. And I swear we either have a parasite or bacteria in our gut that like are like the same or related and they're communicating.
Very possible.
So that's my hypothesis. So then we need to do GI maps and see if this is true.
We've been living together a good amount of time. I'm just curious if people are experiencing something similar out there. You know, if you've shared significant amount of time with your significant other, you know? Anyway, let's get to it. Let's get into some health news.
That was a great little 5-minute detour.
Oh, I love it. You know, you just want to share with people, you know, like stuff that happens in the inner workings of the Dan and Janie world, you know, in the Achieve the Lifestyle back office, you know? Okay. Health-related news. Here we go. I think the topic today is very social, political in nature. And there's a lot of ethics to it. I think there's a big, deep conversation about ethics that is related with this. But we're gonna get into this. So first of all, we got to give you some environmentals, okay? We saw something recently. I think it was Mark Heyman posted it, and Dr. Mark Heyman, everybody knows that name. He's got a huge following. And then it kind of sent me down a little rabbit hole to look into this. So CDC released some data on teenagers.
They updated their data.
They're on teenagers and diabetes and pre-diabetes, okay? And this is part of the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, okay? So NHANES for short, that's what they say it, okay? What is NHANES first? Let's give you some environmentals here. It basically looks at examinations, lab tests. It monitors trends in health and nutrition and that sort of thing. So they're looking at basically results from people's labs, like this overarching data study type of thing from that's coming to the CDC from healthcare institutions. And what they found is that 1 in 3 of our teenagers already has prediabetes, or they're trending towards diabetes, okay? Basically 33% showed a elevated A1C. Janie, what's an A1C so people know?
A 3-month average blood sugar.
Okay, so it's usually in a number of 5 point something. That's where everybody tends to cruise, right? And then once you hit, what gives you diabetes? Where are you pre-diabetic so that people kind of look at their blood work? And
all right, so a value of 5.7 to 6.4 is pre-diabetes. 6.5 and above is diabetes.
Full-blown diabetes. Yeah. Okay. Now,
and you want to live in the probably 5 to 5.5 range. There are some studies that show that an A1C less than 5, so in the 4s, can have negative health implications, because I think that that's showing that you may have some hypo or low blood sugar issues going on, if not consistently, but sporadically, or intermittently, excuse me. So it's a good value to look at, but that's the current gold standard for diagnosing prediabetes and diabetes. But I would argue for a preventative measure, and I know we're not getting into that, but a fasting insulin gives you way more of a heads up that things are gone. So if teenagers are starting to be diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes, their fasting insulin may have been disrupted
way earlier.
Like they say fasting insulin is about anywhere from 10 to 15 years prior. So let's just pick a teenager, 14 in the middle. So what, 4 years old? They started having issues with their fasting insulin.
Then now when
are you going to do blood work on a 4-year-old?
Yeah.
You working in family medicine, so newborn to death. Taking blood work on a kid it hurts my heart. So
well, and then this just goes like 4. That's a crazy number, because that's when you start with the little snacky snacks, you know, and candy becomes
that puts a nod to the quality of formulas.
Oh, there you go. I was trending in that direction. Yeah.
The baby food. So the the pureed things, you know, like what else is in there, stuff, and then and then what are you choosing for your food? And I'm not saying that, you know, the parents are doing bad things, but I'm just saying the marketing of processed foods, one of their biggest their biggest appeals is convenience. And if you have a little kid convenience is amazing.
I'm having a memory here. You remember baby food back in the day?
Gerber?
And I haven't seen what Gerber comes in now, but it used to come in little glass little things. Is that still a thing? Do we know?
I'd have to look.
Yeah,
I'm like, because I see a lot of
those squeezy bags.
Yeah,
and like
but I think that's for older than like little.
But I don't know if because it used to be like an aisle of baby food and it was all in glass and it was these different pureed stuff, and I'm pretty sure the ingredients were pretty straightforward back in the day.
Plastic bags.
No diggity, it was all glass back then.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind as we start talking about.
That's just like a little like where my mind goes. Like if teenagers are being diagnosed with diabetes and pre-diabetes, then it's starting when they're toddlers, young kids. And so it goes to what we've always said, that the quality of food in your home is super important. And if you have little kids, you need to model how they eat. They should not be eating, you can't be eating some way and then they're eating a different way. Oh, because they're kids.
Yeah.
Right? Because now we're seeing a diagnosis of diabetes, which when I was a teenager in my 20s, diabetes was an old people disease, unless it was type 1, right? Mm-hmm. And an autoimmune juvenile diabetes, which is what it's called. But type 2 diabetes was something that happened in your 80s. Now teens, and so you cannot ignore the fact that the quality of our food in the U.S. is causing our health to decline in some way. To what degree and what ingredient you want to argue about, fine, I don't care. But the quality of our food, something's going on. Yeah,
it definitely calls to the fact that it deserves way more scrutiny. Like, we're giving it scrutiny, but it deserves a lot of scrutiny, way more scrutiny. This thing needs to be under a magnifying glass, every aspect of it, from farm to table type of thing. Yeah. So yes, that's a good point, because, if you're showing pre-diabetes, diabetes at 14, that points to a larger issue that, we might have started this decline earlier in life. We can talk about marketing of food to little kids, what they're marketing to little kids, how they're marketing to little kids, so that the kid's like, oh, Mom, can I have this cereal or whatever? And then we need to talk about assuming responsibility for this whole, I don't know where this mindset came from. Oh, that's kids' food. This is adult food. I'm an adult. I know I need to get healthier. I'm going to eat this way because I need to lose some weight or whatever. But I'm going to feed my kids this stuff that got me in trouble with my health. Exactly. That makes no sense to me. I only know human food. I don't know adult food, kid food, human food. Bananas, they're for humans. So you give it to the kid, you give it to the adult, you see what I'm getting at. Beef, human food, So there we go. So now we have this problem. So a little bit of stats. 20% of children, this is an old stat now. I don't know what the newer stat on this, but I'm sure it's gone up. 20% of kids were already reported as obese. So the childhood obesity rate is, I think this number is as of 2020, they were already 20% of kids were obese. We all know that after 2020, everything that was trending in a negative direction just exponentially continued to trend in that negative direction. Suicide rates, depression rates, pharmaceutical reliance rates, like alcoholism, every single obesity, every single thing that was already trending in a negative direction got worse after 2020. There's no arguing with that. So I can only imagine what these childhood obesity rates are going to look like when the 2025 stats come out next year. They say that 60% of American children's diets are based on ultra-processed foods. Mm-hmm. And then here we go with this is the mindset that kind of puts it hinders progress in this area. It's the whole, well, I ate that growing up and I turned out fine. Mm-hmm. Why, they're kids. They should be able to eat it. I ate M&Ms when I was a kid. I turned out fine.
There's a lot of behavioral issues that I've personally observed when parents feed their children. It's that mentality of, well, I ate it, I turned out fine. But where I think you're going is that the quality and the ingredients in foods then versus now are drastically different. Part of where I'm going is that where you start comparing garbage food from back in the day that we surely ate
as kids, I don't know, Doritos, Funyuns, M&Ms, Skittles. You compare, that stuff was trash back then, really. In retrospect, I can say that. It's trash now. But if you compare the Skittles and the Doritos from back then, which, funny story, my mom outlawed Skittles in my house because I was always a chocolate guy, but every now and then I get my hand on a bag of Skittles, and she outlawed it because I would act different when I was on Skittles. I was tripping off them Skittles.
Plus, anytime you're around sugar, you just full send. You black out, something happens, and you just,
Good point. Whenever we talk nutrition here, I swear I gotta be like, hi, my name is Dan, and I'm a sugarholic. Like, I'm a recovering sugar addict, okay? So when I talk about snacks and sweets and things like that, it's like, I've struggled with this. Janie has seen it. So I'm coming from a place of like, listen, this is hard stuff. Coming from experience, guys. Anyway.
If you've ever gone out to dinner with Dan and he'll be like, oh, I'm so full, it was good, or he'll eat a lot. And then the server will come by and be like, desserts? And Dan's like, let me see that menu. And I'm like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. And then if we're at a table with friends, Dan will order a dessert and he's like, what do you want? I was like, no, we're sharing. I'm not getting my own separate thing. But then the friends will get dessert. They can't finish it. So guess who finishes his dessert? And then the friends, him.
I'm a sugarholic, guys.
Yes.
So listen, I see you. I see you guys. It's hard. The sugar thing is hard. I'm right there with you in the trenches of the struggle. So, but I'm not willing to sacrifice my health for some daggone sweet treats, because health is wealth, guys. Most valuable possession you have. Anyway, we get into this thing. The ingredients in a lot of these things were different 30 years ago than they are now. First line right off the bat, they're way more processed now, way more processed, way more artificial than they were back then. Oreos is a big example of this. I mean, the stuff in Oreos now, it sounds like a friggin' high school chemistry lab, worse than that, industrial chemistry lab versus what it was back then. So you have that to consider. And two, can we consider that, hey, you weren't exactly eating right when you were a kid. Like, we should probably know better. We got way more information now than we did back then, and we know better. So why are we going to pass on those mistakes to...
There's a couple things I would say. That when we were kids, we were way more active.
Oh, no doubt.
Like with non-exercise activity, right?
Yeah, we were running around.
Yeah. For sure. Not like I would say kids today maybe the sports are more intense. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, bicycles, going around. We didn't have text messaging, the games. Like, I'm so far removed from video games or any sort of computer games where you can play with your friends and talk through that.
Yeah, the online gaming.
Yeah. And so there's that. There's also the fact that I would argue that we didn't eat, at least, so we weren't very wealthy, at least before my mom got remarried. And so I remember it was a huge deal if we got fruit by the foot. Like, that was a treat. Like, so we didn't really have processed food options. It was, I think the biggest, most processed food was like Iron Kids bread. Remember that?
I don't think I ever had that.
Oh, no? So it was Wonder Bread, but then they had Iron Kids bread. It was probably fortified with more shit.
I never saw Wonder Bread till I came to the States. I just heard about it in TVs and stuff because we had Pampepin back home in Puerto Rico. Or Wholesome.
Yeah.
That's what we
so had. It was, I was the brown sack lunches, always, and I never really had sweet treats. Like, it was a big deal if we got them.
I mean, we grew up in the 80s, 90s. Like, we just didn't know any better. Like, now in 2025, we know a lot.
Right. So here's what I'm saying. What I've observed, I don't have like studies, but what I've observed in family medicine, there's parents who, if they grew up like me and they didn't have the opportunity to eat, like, it was a privilege to eat junk food.
They want to give that to their kids.
They want to give it to their kids because they think it's, better. Like, I'm going to give my kid everything that I didn't have a chance to have. Yep. Or in the case of a 15 or 16-year-old I've mentioned here before who was 400 pounds, and I told his dad, we were talking to his dad about nutrition, and his dad was like, well, he won't eat those things. And, maybe not the best advice, but I remember if I was at the dinner table and I didn't want to eat something, you don't leave that dinner table till your plate's clean. And I've sat all night. I'm sorry. I will even as an adult, and I understand what my parents were doing, I will still refuse to eat cream peas and tuna patties. F off. That's also not my mom. That's my real dad. So I can say that about him. But anyway, so
that's tough.
Yeah,
that sounds tough. Just you saying
tuna
it,
from a can made into a patty and cream peas on top.
Tough. Fam, that's tough. Like you just saying it, I'm just imagining it, and that sounds man.
So take that mentality, and with this father of this very obese kid, and I was like, well, just don't, like, if he's not going to eat it, then he doesn't eat, right? Because in my head, I'm thinking it's okay if he misses a meal, right? Yeah. And his dad had a visceral reaction when I said that to him. I will not allow my child to starve. That was a non-negotiable. He will have his kid eat whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. And so that's a problem. And now his kids, I have no idea. This was years ago, but at the time, his kid wasn't even legally could not drive, but was over 400 pounds.
Wow.
So the relationship with food of the parent also impacts the health of the child.
And we pass the traumas on and the mistakes and that's something. And we're not judging. You do what you can with what you have type of thing.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm not judging with that story. What I'm trying to highlight is that, yes, it's the quality of the food. Yes, it's, our education around food, but it's also
these
behavioral issues. Yeah. So it's multifactorial. And what I really hope that we do is just start to create awareness.
So years ago, I've seen this too, that it was around a Central America, so Colombian and Mexican family, and they had a kid, they're older, but their kid was young. They had him later in life. And the kid was really heavy for his age, very heavy. And they were feeding him, all sorts, just cereal this, bread that, crazy. The kid was pre-diabetic. You know how you get that thing in the back of your neck that they say?
Yeah.
Had it, kid was 12 years old.
Oh God, something nigrans.
Yeah, it's like a discoloration that people get in the back of their neck. You get it on the back of your
neck. You can get it in your armpits.
Yeah. And it shows basically elevated blood sugar levels. It's one of those signs.
Yeah, the skin gets hyperpigmented, so it'll look darker, and it also has a velvety feel to it, so it gets a little bit thickened as well.
That's where I learned what this was from being around this kid, and then So, but these people, they came from very humble, very challenged backgrounds in Mexico and Colombia, respectively. And now they're in the US, they're doing well. They want to give. They want to give the kid and in their mind that it's been programmed that these American foods, and we talked about this on previous episodes, where, other countries see certain things that we have that are actually making us sick, but they see it as a sign of success, wealth.
Good point.
These processed foods that are available here are like a sign of success and man, you guys got the good stuff. You got that Captain Crunch,
because it's been programmed exactly like what I was just saying, how we were, a little bit more poor growing up. And so we didn't eat processed foods because they were considered, luxuries, I guess. I don't know how to say it. Which now processed foods are less expensive. And some people think that they're less expensive, right? But we cooked at home more. We ate at home more. We had to, I had to bring my own lunch. I couldn't get the lunches. And so it's funny how we associate home cooked, eating at home, not eating out, not eating processed foods as poor, and then eating processed foods, outsourcing your foods, like your clients who eat out all the time because they have the money to do so. And that is a sign of wealth and success. However, they've done studies that a woman, they took socioeconomic statuses, a poor woman a woman of lower socioeconomic status who cooked at home more was healthier than a woman of higher status who ate out all the time. And so if you say health is wealth, really, who's wealthier in this situation?
Listen, it goes that what is it? The healthy person has many wishes. The unhealthy person only has one.
Yeah.
And that's to get healthier. So there's a lot there. But it's crazy how we've attached and it exported this mindset that all the crap that we eat here, that we have access to when you go to the grocery store. And listen, have you seen these videos of immigrants like Cubans and Venezuelans when they come here and they take them to like a place like Costco and they're just shocked by the amount of meat, the eggs, because in Cuba, the stuff's regulated. You know what I mean? They can't, like you get like one egg a day or something like that. It's crazy.
You can't get an 18 pack.
You can't get an 18 pack. And these guys are like, holy, I could buy all these eggs.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, bro. You could buy that freaking half a cow too, you know?
Yeah.
So that's privilege. That's a lot of, you know.
I think it's privilege that a lot of people in the US aren't aware of.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. There's a lot of ignorance out there, you know, that you go to, there's plenty of other countries where you go to their grocery stores and if they're out for a long time or, you know, when they get it, people are fighting over it. And here you go and they throw stuff away. They have so much of it.
Look at how we all lost form when the eggs were in shortage.
Exactly. And which kind of pisses me off because a lot of people weren't eating eggs until they told them they were short. And now you want to eat eggs. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're eating eggs. They're good for you. But you know what? Don't be out here buying the eggs.
If you can't tell, Dan was one of the people who lost form when there was an egg shortage.
Listen, I was ready to get in there. Like, get on my way, bro. Anyway, but it's something that, you know, these people that I'm talking about, they associate their new economic status with giving their child all this garbage food from the US. And it's like, oh yeah, Captain Crunch, get that. Yeah, you want hot dogs and all this other stuff. And that's their sign of like, hey, we made it, man. We can give our kid this stuff and their kid's getting sick. All these juices and Hawaiian punch and this and that and all the soda you want because we're in the US, baby, and we made it. And we've exported that. You see how it's like affected these regional things. A perfect example for me, Afghanistan. I was working with Afghans every day. And then the Afghan military guys, they literally, you know, they bring a goat in, they kill a goat, dress it, and they make lunch. And they make rice, and they make their fresh bread, that naan, you know, thing that it's not naan over there. What is it? Shosh, I think is what they call it. Whatever. I forgot the word. I knew it well. But they make this fresh kind of pita bread looking thing. And you got fresh goat, boom, boom, boom. It's delicious. Roasted, like over an open flame. Obviously, we can question the hygiene of the process, but it's goat, it's rice, and it's homemade bread right there, fresh, boom. So whenever we would eat, I wanted to eat their stuff. Whenever they would invite us to eat their stuff, to go to their little thing and eat this, I was pumped. I'm like, goat, rice, bread, oh, it's gonna be so good. And it was delicious every time. But they were more excited about coming to eat our food at our dining facility, which was hot dogs, burgers,
with a grade rating
pizzas.
of D.
Yeah, like just all this fried chicken, like all this, and not to mention the ultra processed, all that stuff is terrible. But now you're putting it in Afghanistan, so it's all like flash frozen, the ultra processed of the ultra processed food. That's what you get downrange. So they were more excited about that. And I would just be like, you know, through a translator, I'm like, bro, you guys got the better food. Why do you want to come eat our trash for?
Yeah.
That's crazy. But it goes back to that mentality where we've exported. They're like, man, you got burgers and hot dogs and pizzas and cereals and all this trash. You guys got it made, bro. You like, that's rich people food type thing. You know what I mean? So there's a lot there to unpack. Clearly, we're at a point where we're affecting our youth with when you have 1 in 3. And the question that I always like to ask is, what does diabetes look like when you've been a diabetic since you were 15?
Yeah.
What does that look like at 35?
Yeah.
You know, because the records we have are people that became diabetic in their late 40s or 50s, and then they live till, you know, their 60s or 70s with it. But what happens when you're a developing brain? Because we know that high blood glucose can affect your brain or your cognitive function. So this thing's still growing and developing, and now you're experiencing the symptoms of high glucose, chronically elevated glucose, or diabetic. What happens, heart function, when you've been diabetic since you were 15? obesity rates, like all this stuff. I don't think this goes anywhere good.
No.
You know? So that's a long preamble to get into what we're going to talk about today, because it goes hand in hand. Okay, so this was it's probably been like 2 months ago, so we're a little late to the party to talk about this. But it's still in the works. So Texas, the state of Texas, proposed a bill to remove things like soda and candy from their SNAP program. SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So that's welfare,
welfare, disabilities.
Yeah, but it's
even veterans.
But it's like basically like food. What's the common
stamps, welfare?
Food stamps. There you go. Food stamps. That's food stamps. I was looking for the layman's term for it. So from their food stamps, they decided that they want to make soda, candy, like this sort of stuff ineligible to be bought with food stamps. Now, this is a long-ranging debate because people on food stamps were able to buy alcohol and cigarettes with food stamp money. So there's a debate there where, like, should they be able to buy alcohol and cigarettes with government subsidized, stuff? And some states they can't, some states they can, and then this conversation turns into freedom and all this other stuff, because it's like, hey, when you give them the money, they should be able to free to do whatever they want with it. However, there's a lot more to this, because remember, this money is coming from taxpayers and all this other stuff. So you're basically receiving other people's money so that you can have a certain level of living. And if you choose to spend that on alcohol and cigarettes and stuff that's going to make you sick, there's another conversation there to be had, because then a lot of these people are also on subsidized health care. Okay, so
you're paying for the problem and then the solution.
Exactly. That's where this is a very ethical conversation. We're going to talk about ethics here. But Texas wants to take that stuff off the SNAP.
Right.
So guess who showed up to protest taking soda and candy off of the SNAP program in Texas?
The good old American Heart Association.
The American Heart Association.
Which we did an episode about them around Ansel Keys and cholesterol. I don't remember which episode, but
correct.
Take a listen to that.
Yeah. So the American Heart Association, who to us is, these people are great. They study cardiovascular disease. They give recommendations so that people can avoid cardiovascular disease and all this stuff. And
the reason why they are participating in this conversation is because, like I said in the previous episode, they're so big in the sort of health guidelines space that if the American Heart Association says to follow a certain nutrition path, other organizations like the American Diabetes Association, the American Oncology Association, all these other will follow suit. So they're pretty big and powerful when it comes to anything nutrition, dietary, in regards to making recommendations for people with chronic illnesses. So that's why they were coming and speaking at this.
Yes. And their excuse was that if they start regulating what people can buy with the SNAP money or with these food stamps, that less people would participate in the program and people would go hungry. More people would go hungry. Now let's lay this out a little bit here. So I guess the question is, the people that argue that you should be able to buy alcohol and cigarettes with food stamps, do you need alcohol and cigarettes to live?
No.
Okay. So what are we talking about? Like that, I don't understand that argument. We could come at it from the freedom side, like it's freedom. But listen, remember that this money's coming from somewhere else, other people. This isn't money that's being magically created by the government and given to you every month. So let's consider that. Now, we're talking about food here. So AHA is arguing that if you discourage people from buying this stuff, that less people are going to participate. I'm calling BS, because you still need to eat.
And I think the congresswoman who was on the panel during his vote against it and him explaining why. I can't remember what exactly she said, but she was like, I usually am not surprised in these things, but I'm very surprised
That the American Heart
the
Association.
American Heart Association is going against taking away sugary beverages and snacks, which we know can worsen the health of somebody.
I don't know her name, but I was reading, I can't remember her name, or I think it was his. I think it was a dude. Whoever this person was.
No, I'm kidding.
Whoever this person was that said they were surprised by the AHA, I should have been like, hey, come on, listen to PharmaPhobic, baby.
Yeah.
We got you.
Yeah.
We got you. Yeah. Hey, where have you been for the past couple of years, man? Like, we know that this is not surprising that these people, the AHA is industry funded. They're funded by pharmaceutical companies. They're funded by large healthcare conglomerates. Like, they're funded by the food industry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're a large, powerful lobby for BS at the government level, at the federal level. You know what I mean? So it's not surprising. What takes me back is like, oh, they really came out and said it out loud, huh? They really came out and say, hey, we need people to stay sick, okay?
Yeah, and so they voted against them taking out sugary beverages and snacks. But then when I was reading recently, a few weeks later, they backtracked.
They retracted their position.
Yeah, they retracted.
Even though they sent a highly paid lobbyist, they paid for that person's travel, they paid for his lodging, and they sent him to speak at this hearing in the Texas Senate.
He's taking the fall.
Yeah,
he was saying what they wanted him to say.
We don't know what he wasn't speaking our talking points, even though they paid this guy.
They labeled it as miscommunication.
Yeah, exactly. It's miscommunication now because they got the business from the people. You know what I mean? Like the backlash was insane.
Yeah.
So they retracted their position, supposedly, allegedly. Like, hey, that's not what we were trying to say. Even though this guy's on, video saying, no, we don't think we should eliminate this stuff. So a couple of things here that accompany this before we dive into the ethics of this conversation. The most purchased item with food stamp money. What do you think it is?
Soda.
Correct. Soda is the most purchased item with food stamp money. Now, if we're giving you nutritional assistance, I mean, you think fruits, vegetables, and we can, there's part of this conversation where we have to talk about what's available at some of these places that take SNAP, okay, and that take food stamps. But I don't know, canned tuna, maybe a couple of cans of vegetables.
I'm kidding.
No, yeah. But I'm saying, soda is the most purchased item with this stuff. And this speaks to, I never really look at people's grocery carts when we're at the grocery stores. And now, going to Sprouts and places like that, it's in the farmers markets that we go to, it's a little bit different. But when we used to go to the mainstream grocery stores back in the day, like during the event
when we lived up in New York.
Yeah, like when we lived up in New York during the event that shall not be mentioned, where we're learning about all these comorbidities and what's affecting people that are passing away from this certain event. And I started looking at grocery carts and I'm like, what in the hell? Like, you see people that have grocery carts full of soda. My guy, where's your water? Where's your water? Where is it? Where is the water, bro? Where's the food? Where's the actual meals that are gonna nourish your body? It's like you have a cart and it's full top to bottom of soda and there's nothing else in it. Maybe some potato chips. Mm-hmm. Like, what is going on at home? But anyway. So soda is the most purchased item with food stamps. That's concerning. SNAP, kids that are part of this SNAP family, they consume 43% more soda than those that are not on SNAP.
Correct. Yeah.
40.
That's
guys,
almost double.
Almost double the amount of soda consumed by kids that are part of families that are on SNAP than those that are not. That is a crazy stat. That is an insane stat, okay? Then here's where it starts to get a little bit convoluted. 72% of SNAP recipients are also on Medicaid, meaning they're on government-subsidized health care as well. So they receive government-subsidized food incentives.
And I think that's total SNAP participants, not just children.
The 43.
Yeah, you never put your mic where you need to put it.
I'm all over the place. I'm Puerto Ricaning, so maybe I hit Puerto Ricaning with my hands. So maybe I'm hitting it out of the way. Yeah. I mean, holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so, like I said, taxpayer money is going to the problem. Increase access to sugary beverages, giving people money and they are ingesting an increased amount of sugary beverages, which we know excessive amounts of sugar cause inflammation in the body, which then leads to things like high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol. Mm-hmm. Yeah, most people don't think sugar and cholesterol, but that's what plaque buildup from high cholesterol caused by irritation of the sugar in the endothelial lining. But anyway, do you have anything else to say about the SNAP participants?
Well, then it goes into back what we were talking about with the kids, at 20% obesity rate, old stat, then adults, 42% obesity rate. I mean, and the 42% obesity rate, that's actually a watered down statistic because that's like in the morbidly obese category.
Yeah.
Then you add 30% obesity to it. It gets really high up there. Like we're looking at like 70% of overweight or obese category adults that fall into that.
So I wonder, with the new update that the CDC released, 1 in 3 kids have prediabetes. Mm-hmm. Diabetes or prediabetes?
Prediabetes. They're in that trend of prediabetes to diabetes.
How many of those 33%
are on SNAP? Excellent question. I don't think that I didn't see that stat anywhere, but I didn't query for it either.
Yeah.
But that's an excellent question. Now, the ethics of the matter. So we obviously don't want anybody. We're a successful country. You know, we have there's a moral obligation. I don't want to say obligation. That's not the word I'm looking for. But it's good to help other people come up. You know, There's a lot of wealth. There's a lot of abundance in this country. So it's good to help other people that need help, right? We can all agree on that, yes. Right? So we don't want to do away with things like SNAP and welfare, and like we need to give. We need to give and help some people out, right? Now, where do we draw the line when you're going to get SNAP and you're also going to get health care, right? And this makes a case. It's like, okay, this stuff goes up in cost, right? I give you SNAP, I give you health care, and then if you're eating a bunch of crap, then you're going to need more and more health care, therefore raising the cost on the healthcare system, right?
Right.
So it would make perfect sense to really focus on keeping people healthier, especially if they're on SNAP, and especially if, you know, now we're talking about the people that want something like universal health care in this country. When you look at what's happening in Canada, where their access is, they have terrible access to the healthcare system because it's just clogged up. You know, it's like, oh, you need a MRI for your brain tumor? Yeah, we'll give it to you next year, you know, because that's when we can get you in. So you look at something like that, and their population is way healthier than ours.
I mean, where do they go? They come down here and pay cash for stuff.
And they come down here and pay cash for stuff.
Driving up the price.
Yep. But their population is way healthier than ours, and our population is the sickest nation in the world. I mean, I can't reiterate that enough. We say it every episode. By every metric, we're the sickest population in the world. So if you are on the side of you want universal health care in the United States, wouldn't it make sense to really, 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 really hone down on how healthy you can keep your population, right?
But it's America.
Well, that's the thing. You should be able to do what you want. You should be able to eat what you want. And I don't disagree with that. I'm all about that freedom stuff, all about it. Mm-hmm. But this is where the ethics of the matter start coming. This is where it gets really convoluted. Now, here's the thing. Okay. Am I willingly, you know, and we got to talk about the supermarkets and the stores that only take SNAP and what they actually have on the shelves. But then that's a supply and demand thing. Because if you're only buying the ultra processed stuff and the potato chips and the soda and the stuff. Why would I put fruits and vegetables so that they can go bad and it costs my business money? So there's a lot of factors playing into this. So we got to kind of touch them all up. Now, wouldn't it make sense to really focus on the health of the population in general, let alone the people that are on subsidized medical and subsidized food?
But that doesn't generate a profit lifelong for somebody.
Exactly. So now you're talking about the American Beverage Association and the National Confectioners Association. So
like confectioner's sugar?
Yes, correct. So National Beverage Association is like the lobbying group, the conglomerate that includes Pepsi and Coca-Cola and all these cute guys that, we love what they put out, right? And then the National Confectioners Association, as in sugar, yes, is all the candy companies, right? That's their little conglomerate. So these guys, they started a whole thing. They're funding a whole thing called Your Cart, Your Choice.
Oof.
Ooh, ain't that great? Your cart, your choice. You should be able, hey, listen, freedom. And they're coming at it from that freedom angle, which we all love. We all love that freedom stuff. Well, some of us do.
What was that quote
don't.
I heard on the Huberman podcast that I highlighted? I want us to bring attention to, and so I can't take credit for this, but we're all about the freedom.
Yep.
Right? The
Until
freedom
we have
to
to
make
deal with the
choices,
consequences.
but we are unwilling to accept and deal with the consequences of the choices we make.
Yep. That is perfect picture for modern society here in the US. Yes, we want the freedom to do this and do that, but then we don't want to deal with the consequences of the freedom.
Yeah. Which I understand. Like, you can't go in and say, all right, you have SNAP, so therefore you cannot have any of this. You can only have whole natural foods, which I would love it if somebody gave me money to only eat whole natural foods. Like, let's go. Put me on SNAP.
Yeah.
But I understand that that's stripping you of your choice, right? Stripping you of your freedoms. Okay, fine. But when you have Medicaid, because like you said, 72% of SNAP participants have Medicaid. When you're on Medicaid, you don't have free reign to see anybody you want. You don't have free reign to go on any medication, to do anything. You are restricted by Medicaid of who pars with that plan of what doctors you can see, what medications you can take. So there is restriction on there. So why can't there be restriction in your food? Why are we okay with accepting limitations and regulations on who and what we can see, what we can take, except when it comes to our food?
Yeah, I don't think, here's how I see this. Me saying, hey, you can't buy this stuff with this SNAP money. It's not saying that you can't buy this stuff.
Right, exactly. Because same thing. If you have say I have Medicaid, but I really want to see this doctor, he doesn't par with Medicaid. Okay, I have to pay out of pocket.
Yeah.
Or I really like any medications or whatever, but I really like this, let's say thyroid medication. I'm on Medicaid, I have a thyroid issue. I want Synthroid, the brand, but they'll only cover the generic levothyroxine. Okay, I'll pay for Synthroid out of pocket because my insurance won't cover. Okay, fine. You will be covered by SNAP to eat, chicken, beef, eggs, milk, whole grain bread, all these things. And if you want the Doritos, the Pepsi, things like that, fine, have it. You pay for it.
Yeah, and now we're talking, so there's an incentive there, because if SNAP only covers certain things, then and you really need, it's like, hey, I either use these food stamps or I don't eat, and I go to my little supermarket in my AO, and it's, I got vegetables, I got fruits, I got whole foods, and the conversation here is, how do we get this stuff to be more affordable in the short term, right? Because we know that when you lay it out, if you're eating at home more and you're cooking more, you actually spend less money. But people may see, hey, a pound of chicken is more expensive than 2 bags of Doritos type of thing, even though you explain the calorie per calorie thing, where ultra processed foods end up being more expensive because you're going to need more of them.
And you're more likely to overconsume
and you're more likely to overconsume them, so you'll run through them quicker, et cetera, et cetera. So, but how do we, there's a thing there of How are we farming? How are we getting stuff to market? Making sure that this stuff is available to other communities, like less economically advantaged, or that's not even a thing, like poor communities and more economically challenged communities in the country, that they have access to this great food. But it really changes the structure as you start eliminating the BS from SNAP. The incentives are different. And listen, if I'm on SNAP and I'm gonna eat off of these food stamps, and I go to the food stamp store and all I have is these, hey, it's food, it's nutritious food. I'm not saying you're gonna, it's nutritious food, then that's what I'm buying with the food stamps that I got. So there's a way to shape this environment. And if you want soda and if you want this other stuff, then hey, you can pay for it out of pocket. Nobody's telling you that you can't have this stuff. This is something where when we start talking now about, eliminating or banning certain ingredients and all this stuff, and this is where the ethics conversation really takes hold. I don't like the idea that we have to get the government involved in all these decisions that we as a people should agree are good for us. Like, we have to get the government to ban, things like freaking formaldehyde and stuff. Like, seriously? We have to get the government involved in that? Like, we know that stuff is bad for humans. What are we doing, bruh? Yeah. Why are you putting it in there? Yeah. This is where the ethics thing, it's like, these people that want to make this money off their product, what's up with you that you can't just make a good product? You got to put all this BS in it, knowing that it's going to make people sick. And then you have these people lobbying for stuff that is going to make people sick because your business is incentivized to keep a revolving door of sick people coming in.
Right.
You're not here to solve the problem.
Another reason why the American Heart Association was there speaking against that is because who they get money from. And so, like in the previous episode, we talked about the American Heart Association they are who they are today because Procter & Gamble gave them the money to grow, to start off and grow. Procter & Gamble makes Crisco, and other things like that. So we got into the whole seed oil conversation. Ansel Keys, scratch the surface of the seed oil conversation. Also, the American Heart Association takes money from Kellogg's, ConAgra, which I was just looking that up real quick. They basically spear food innovation, which to me, when I hear food innovation, I think more
GMOs,
processed.
More processed stuff.
And then I need to look into this more, but they also take money from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, which the American Heart Association tells people not to eat beef, but yet they take money from a beef association. So I feel like I need that explained to me.
You know what? The beef association thing is an interesting conversation too, because these people are, when we think about industrial meat and industrial farming and industrial cows in grow pens and the worst type of thing that you could do for beef and for cows and things like that. These are the people that control all of that. These are the people that keep these regenerative farms and all these they kind of put their boot on them because they want this highly industrialized stuff to be the standard.
So I see the American Heart Association, their stance on saturated fats, which is BS. And I've seen cardiologists after cardiologists say, don't eat red meat, yet they're funded by a beef.
Hey, their money's green too, baby.
That just
their money's green too.
I need more explanation about that. And then they have the Heart Check Food Certification Program. So when you're at the grocery store and you see something that says Heart Healthy on it, that is a $6,000 annual fee to get that. And then you have to you have to meet certain criteria. But again, it's the criteria of the American Heart Association. So it can't have so much saturated fat.
Heart Healthy Cheerios?
Yes. It can't have high quality canola oils, okay. High quality oleic, I can't ever say
oleic, high oleic sunflower oil.
Oil, yeah.
It's high oleic. It's great.
So the criteria the American Heart Association makes for heart healthy stuff is in question because they're basing all of that stuff off of the Ansel Keys study, which we know is not accurate.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then
Ansel Keys stuff is so great that they had to hide the stuff in a basement for years.
Yeah.
And somebody had to die for people to find it.
So there's also the Industry Nutrition Forum, which is the American Heart Association program to promote public health in the food industry. It is a $15,000 a year membership. And members include, I don't have them all, but they include PepsiCo, Kroger, and General Mills.
They make great stuff too.
Yeah.
They make really great stuff.
So that's why American Heart Association has skin in the game to keep people consuming high sugary foods. Even I know they retracted it, but that's why they want to do this, because of the people who fund them. And also, as Dan mentioned, the revolving door that is a consequence of you consuming high sugary foods, developing chronic illnesses, relying on pharmaceutical medications, and needing to see cardiologists, and likely having cardiac interventions that are going to put more money in the pockets of cardiologists who are under the American Heart Association.
Yeah. Big Pharma funds American Heart Association too, of course. So, they want you to buy their products too.
Yeah.
Forcefully buy them when you get diabetes or something like that. So here's
what are some, how can we empower people to, so we just said all this scary stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk about ethics for a second. Because like I said, that they're the other side, the people that want to keep this thing going are appealing to the freedom conversation, which everybody responds to that as Americans. We're like, yeah, freedom.
Yeah.
Whether you're on that side or this side, your freedom is important. And it's a guiding principle for a lot of people, even though some people support stuff that isn't actually freedom, whatever. We're not going to go there today. But like I was saying, more government regulation is not necessarily a good place to go. If you want to eat Burger King, man, I'm not on this side of banning and outlawing, fast food and all this stuff. I just want you to really be aware that this stuff is not doing anything for you. It's actually taking away from you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you want to make that choice, go for it. This is America, baby. That's go for it. Now, when we go into this area, this is a gray area where it's like, okay, you work hard all week, you make this paycheck, and you want to go spend it on Mickey D's and alcohol and cigarettes. Knock yourself out. You earn that money. Do whatever the hell you want. You are getting a check from the government that was put together by other people's taxpayer dollars, and we're sharing this with you so that you can enjoy some semblance of quality of life because you're in an economically challenged position. And there's a deeper conversation of how do we get people up out of that, because the handouts are not working. You know what I mean? People stay in that state perpetually. You could almost argue that the handouts keep people in that economically challenged state because there's no incentive for them to rise up out of it. It's just, hey, here you go, here you go, here you go. And you're like, oh, I'm cool. I'm getting my food paid for. I don't need to strive. That's a deeper conversation that it's not for this podcast. But if all these other people are giving you this money and then you're going to use it in a way that's probably ill-advised, and here, we need to educate these people too on what's a better food choice, what's actually food, what is not. We need to make sure that they really know. If there's somebody that really needs this health education, it's going to be people that are getting this money, because then they're going to go on Medicaid as well, and then they're going to consume healthcare at a higher rate than most people because they've been buying all the soda in the world and eating all this stuff. And then they're going to go on healthcare, and then the cost of healthcare just continues to rise. We have a clogged up healthcare system with people that we could have prevented from being there. Deeper than that, universal healthcare. I'm not necessarily for it, but for the people that are for it, this is a 50-50 toss-up thing. If you really want this, wouldn't it make sense to free up space in the healthcare system so that the costs stay low and that more people can have access to it? It's not just, hey, I'll see you in 2 years. So for your condition that needs care now, you know what I mean?
So one, there's no money in prevention.
No money in prevention.
You said to prevent.
Even though you're paying yourself in the savings, you know what I mean? So we just have to reframe how people look at. But you're right. You're not going to make $400 billion a year in prevention.
Right. And also, I lost my train of thought.
Nice. You're getting old. Guys, she turned 40 and she's getting old. I noticed.
No, it's because you outsource everything to me. And so this brain is full. This brain is full.
Get you a Janie, guys. Your life is so much better.
Oh, such a backhanded compliment. But you were saying freedom of choice.
Yeah.
Universal healthcare. Keep talking.
These people that make a crap ton of money a year, like these healthcare groups that work with diabetics.
Oh, I remember.
And the ABA, the American Beverage, and people that make money off the sales of soda and all this stuff, they're pushing for this freedom narrative. Like, oh, they should be able to buy whatever the hell they want with that money.
But I think it's from a whole systematic issue, because if you look at the food pyramid, I think they just revamped it. Mm-hmm. But, bread and whole grains are still at the base of the pyramid, and eggs are still demonized because they have too much saturated fat.
I have hope for that to change here pretty soon. I think that...
Right, but I'm thinking if the recommendations from societies that be in like the U.S. guidance for the food pyramid actually reflect an optimal diet that will lead to a long, healthy, productive life, and then you base the SNAP allowance off of the food pyramid, if it looks like that, why not?
Yeah. And the other environmentals that go into this conversation of why do these whole natural foods, the price tag is higher on them than the freaking bag of Doritos. Like, we need that's a deep conversation there. Then people are going to bring up the food deserts, which there's a multi-prong. Like I said, there's a whole supply and demand part on it too, where it's like they're just not buying the stuff. So these supermarkets just stop bringing it in. So there's that part of the conversation. And then, the whole ethics of it. Like, why, if you start a food company, why are you putting crazy ingredients in this food that are making people sick? We already have eons of data on this. Why? Why do we keep using this stuff? And where do you draw the line between turning a profit and making people sick knowingly? You know what I mean? You can't tell me that all these food companies don't know that Red 40 was making people sick. Like, I don't believe you. I don't freaking believe you that, oh, we didn't know. Shut your mouth up. Because I'm keeping it Jesus friendly here. Right. You know what I mean? So that's an ethical conversation too. And then there's the part of the government. Where does government overreach start? When you start regulating all this stuff, and then what problems are you creating by inserting more regulation into this? Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's always something I'd struggled with. I think that's a little bit more easier to grasp onto within like my medical training and everything, is the ethics of giving somebody who's been a raging alcoholic a liver transplant, or somebody who's smoked their entire lives a lung transplant. Yeah. Versus somebody who has like cystic fibrosis, or somebody who has like an autoimmune liver issue. Yeah. And so to me, I've always struggled with the ethics of things like that. And I don't think that that's too far different than this.
And it's not too far different than this. And people are going to bring one up from the past couple of years where it's like, if you didn't take a certain medication that people were being forced and coerced aggressively to take, and then you got a certain disease, certain little viral thing that was going around, if you got that and then you end up in the hospital, should you be treated? And a lot of people were saying that they should be turned away because they didn't take the medication that is now proving to be harmful to people. That was actually, it was a scam. I didn't think about that. They ran on us. But yeah, that was a big topic of conversation, and that kind of applies to this. And at some point, I think we should address this conversation by name and last name, what I'm talking about. But if you know, you know. Yeah. But they brought this up. They're like, oh, you chose not to take it. Now you're sick and you're in the hospital. And this is where the freedom of choice comes in. Now, here's where I land on this. If I smoke for years and I get lung cancer, and then I put myself on a lung transplant list, and I'm going to pay for my lung transplant, or I pay medical insurance and they're going to cover it, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. You're coughing up the money? Okay.
Even though you're taking up space on the list.
That's something we can debate that. But if you can afford it and you can pay for it and you can cover it, cool. For now, there's a downside to this. Of course, this isn't a complete thought. But if you are smoking yourself into lung cancer and now you need other people to pay for your mistake, that's a different situation. And I'm not saying you deserve to die. I'm not saying anything like that, but I'm saying that complicates things a little bit more because you made a choice knowing that you couldn't carry the consequences of that choice.
Yep.
And that's something that we got to think about. Hey, with the freedom to choose, there come consequences. And what do you value more? Freedom or having to deal with the consequences? Are you more afraid of the consequences or are you more afraid of not having the freedom? You know what I mean?
I think you can have both. I think you can have the freedom, but be ready to own up with whatever.
Great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. And that was my thing over the past couple of years. I'm like, I'm not taking that stuff. And if I get sick and end up in a hospital, then I'm ready to deal with it.
You wouldn't have gone to a hospital.
I know I wouldn't have gone, but I'm saying I'm ready to deal with it. You know what I mean? Because I know that I made a choice and whatever it's like when you mouth off to a big dude in a bar, you know, some people want to run away. Oh, he wants to attack me. And other people are like, oh, I got myself into this. Time to knuckle up. I got to deal with it. That's my stance on it, you know? So something to think about. This is a very complex topic that we'll definitely continue to bring up. But to end it here, listen, we really got to think about what we're putting in our mouths. Right. I think the food quality debate over food you know, the calories and that stuff doesn't matter when what you're eating is literally complicating your natural bodily processes. You know what I mean? And then you see how it permeates into other areas of society and it becomes more expensive and taxpayer dollars are probably mishandled in treating the consequences of this. So something to think about. I think this is more of a ethical individual stance, like, hey, think about this and how we're affecting other people.
And I think the biggest takeaway of actionable items that you can do if you're listening is that nutrition there's so much information out there. It's very overwhelming. We totally understand that. And I had a young man ask for, you know, by himself was like, I want to see a nutritionist. I want to figure this out. And I'm like, that's awesome. And I encourage everyone to do that. There's very, very well-educated and awesome dietitians and nutritionists out there. And I would try to find one and just learn more about good quality food and how to nourish your body to prevent diseases and have a long productive life. And if you need help with that, shoot us an email, info@Achieve the Lifestyle, DM us Achieve the Lifestyle on Instagram. There's tons of dietitians and nutritionists who give really great free content on Instagram. We can point you to some. We can give you some names if you want to work one-on-one with us or even not with us, with somebody else in person. We can facilitate you finding one because I think education is so powerful here. It's just finding the right education because a lot of information is muddled up by financial incentives and things like that.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, just if you really don't want to deep dive too much or you don't have the time or you're overwhelmed, when you go to the grocery store, look at it. If you know what it is, eat that. Okay? And when you pick up the bag of whatever and you look at the ingredients, learn to read ingredient labels, and you don't know what that stuff is, what's sodium sorbate, blah, 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 whatever, put it back down. You don't need it, baby.
Yeah.
Go get the chicken. Go get the beef. You know what that is. Go get the peppers. You know what that is. You know what a banana is. You know, go get that stuff instead. And I think you will be way better off, okay?
Yeah.
Till the next one, we'll continue this conversation in a future episode.
Yeah.
Hope you guys enjoyed this. And listen, stay pharma free out there, okay?
Woo! Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to the PharmaPhobic podcast. If you found this conversation interesting, which I know you did, make sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also make sure to check us out on Instagram @Achieve the Lifestyle. And if you're interested in pursuing a stronger, healthier, more capable version of yourself, check out our website @AchieveTheLifestyle.com.
The PharmaPhobic podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not constitute medical, legal, or professional advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider before making any medical or wellness decisions. While we discuss pharmaceutical, holistic, and alternative health topics, our content is not a substitute for professional medical guidance.